Hi, and welcome to Data Demystified, the podcast where we look at data, MarTech, and getting value from data in practice. My name is Stefan van Kalkeren. I'm CPO at Omark, and today I'm joined again by Stefan Goossens. He's one of the owners of Converzo, a marketing agency. He also do web development.
Yes.
Between us, I think we cater to a broad range of customers, from enterprise to very small businesses.
Yeah.
Different challenges, everyone wanting to be relevant to their customers and making money, but the question is, how do we achieve that? Today, I want to talk to you about the effectiveness of audience building. So how do we know who our audience is? And then also maybe how much can we put our trust into platforms where you can build those audiences? To give some context, a while back I read a study where one advertising research company, they built segments in various different ways. One of them was, for instance, based on gender. So they'd make a male segment. Then these advertising would be like a poll asking, what's your gender? And then half of those respondents were female, indicated to be female.
Okay.
So statistically, you could say that the male segment was like kind of
Fluid.
at least fluid, but I'd even say like a random, if you would ask anyone, male, female, that's a 50% chance, roughly. In this case, apparently it was not better than chance. So this, of course, being, it was a very local study, and it was a platform that was not later named, so I'm not sure which the platform was. But overall, that does make you think those platforms tend to get their profile information indirectly, right? Based on your viewing history or maybe search history or what you watch. You don't typically tell them, I am a man, I have got 2 kids, I live there and there, and these are my hobbies. So there's always, I think, a matter of inaccuracy. So I was thinking, how do we approach that? What's acceptable? How do we go about this? So maybe let's start with that. What telling you this, what do you think? What comes to mind?
I think, well, in the study, I was thinking maybe those people were just more responsive to a poll in an ad. So it's maybe smaller, but those 50% female were just more engaged with an ad poll, and the men just didn't click it.
But if 50% of the clicks were female, that would still mean there's 50% of people that click something else. Could be that they were not male.
No, maybe. Well, for example, the ad is shown to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Only 20 of those people were female, but only 40 replied to the poll in the ad.
So you're saying there were a lot of irresponsive males that saw the ad and were like,
maybe.
Meh.
I'm not sure if they have the views and the response in the study, but still, there's probably a lot of waste in those target audience.
Yeah, because it is repeated with some other trials as well. So based on family situation and education and all that.
I did notice in the past, and especially in Meta, and then if you only show your ads on Facebook, and it's probably, we all know it, but only our grandparents and parents are still on Facebook. But I did run some ads in the past that I thought my audience would be a lot younger, but then if you look at the demographic of the clicks, it's all 56 plus.
That's a good, I think overall that's a good observation, because yes, there might be, I still have a Facebook account. So technically I'm part of an audience, or I could be part of an audience, but then are you going to click on an ad if you're never on the platform? So I think it's depending on how they define their audiences, they'll tell you, yes, we've got 2 billion females. But if there's only 100,000 that are still active,
yeah. I think there's a gap in that, and you can also see it on the comment section under Facebook ads. If you don't set the age targeting restricted, I tend to get a lot of the comments usually are older females that reply with glittery GIF images, like way back on Hives. Like,
yeah.
I tend to see the comments being, but if you think about it, those are the people that are still on Facebook, and those are the people that have time to even. Why would you comment on an ad? But
yeah, good question. That is true. So yes, you can build great audiences, but then there's a matter of the timing, who's active. So you're saying in some cases you don't not only have to trust the audience data to build audiences, but also maybe think about the restrictions you have to put on the platform itself. So you have to use their audience building not for starting per se, but also to make sure that there's not a lot of wastes. I'm kind of looking for a better way to phrase this. It's not just that you want to target younger people, but it's also you want to exclude older people because there's an overpopulation of older people in this case.
Yeah, in this specific, in this specific case, there is.
Yeah.
At least I feel that there is.
So how does that start? If there's a client that comes to you, they want to target females in a certain age demographic. What of that secret sauce is yours? How much of that you leave to the platform? Is there differences between the platforms? Maybe without even having to name them, but what's your approach to this?
Well, of course, the clients usually have a very specific targeting in mind, and then the platforms, of course, have a bit of a broader label to it, like the people that like show news or something, or those type of content. So you always have to like move the client up a bit, maybe up a level that it gets a bit broader. And then I usually tend to just believe Meta on their blue eye logo.
So, because and do you find surprises then, or does it typically work as you'd expect?
Well, the age thing is a thing. So sometimes I feel like, okay, I click together an audience, and then suddenly I look at the demographic and I'm like, but I would expect them to be younger than this, or and then even the views might sometimes match with my expectations, but the clicks won't.
Yeah. Which I guess makes sense because yes, you can put an audience in front of audience. You can put an ad in front of an audience, but then the question is, does it elicit response?
Yeah.
To who does it elicit response? And then there might be a bias in that. There might be a percentage of people that are drawn to it, and then some part of your audience doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do really think there is even with all the data they have, I don't think they can make the segments 100% perfect. So you will always have waste, I think.
Because I think that's the discrepancy between there's only so much a platform like that can do, right? They have direct or indirect ideas about what the people do, what they like, what their interests are, maybe gender, depending on the platform and effectiveness. And where we come from with our data platforms or tools like HiGem, we tend to rely more on the first-party data. So that means there's a lot of detail you have, and you have it in your own control, and there's consent in place and all that. So I think it's best practice in terms of what you gather, and then you can use tools like HiGem to mine patterns in that journey to optimize it, which has a value. Once they buy, I might know who they are, what their gender is, where they live, but that's only that. So once they're on my website or app, I have ways to optimize, and maybe there's somewhat of a loop back to finding more customers like them, but then I still need to reach them somewhere else, on another platform, another phase of their life, another touch point, a bus stop, website they're visiting, their news website they like. I don't know. So how do you, with your clients, how do you balance the two? What do you get from your own touch points, maybe your own data, versus what do you get from external parties? Where should they meet? Where shouldn't they meet? Yeah,
I think clients, of course, have from their own data, they kind of know like demographic of their ideal customers.
Do they know this because based on data, or do they know this because they have an idea of what their customers are?
Yeah, sometimes it's an idea, but sometimes it's just orders.
Yeah,
seeing like, okay, this is a male age something.
Yeah.
but it's always it's most of the time it's still missing. Like what are their interests and where do they come from? Well, I think it's never sufficient to almost in our case to just set an ad campaign based on like the average age and gender of customers, and then just it's too wide. So you have to narrow it down based on the specifics of the platforms. And then again, if you for example, if you have a sport company, your clients will range from a 12-year-old student who needs a spork for his lunchbox and a 56-year-old grandma who needs 4 sporks for her grandchildren. So your own data will always be. But yeah,
there's never just the one customer or the one profile that fits everyone perfectly.
No.
Yeah, because there are different needs, and then one of the points maybe even that original article puts forward is that maybe we shouldn't rely too much on social demographics. So yeah, how much does gender or sex or age, familial situation actually tell you about it? Other than, yes, if you have children, you might buy more children's toys, food, whatever. That's kind of a given. Other than that, are you a completely different person because you now have children? To some extent, but not in every aspect of your life. So that would make a case to target more towards interests, I guess, or behavior. Do you do that with your customers? Do you have like do they brief you on that? Or do you have an idea or an intuition about where do we then build this audience, not just on what they are, but also where can we find them? What's the moment in this customer journey where we have to hook them?
Yeah, yes, but it in the end it all depends on the what are you selling or promoting?
Yeah,
because sometimes the product is just tailored to people with kids or people taking public transportation.
Yeah,
and it makes no sense advertising public transportation to people owning cars. Or well,
not generic.
You could if you want them to get them out of the It's in online marketing. It's a lot of generic. You have to flatten things. If I'm selling soccer shoes, it makes sense to target them on people that like soccer. Then still, you also have just people who watch it. But okay, you need to narrow it down because it makes sense to put it in front of that audience.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of products that don't. Where you don't have that easy targeting available.
Yeah,
you still need to broaden it a bit, and then you start thinking about, okay, I think they like this kind of they have these interests or they live in these areas.
That is a tricky bit because I if you read books like Byron Sharp's How Brands Grow, he's very much an advocate for target the whole market because there's high buyers, low buyers, all that in there. There's no good way to over optimize. You cannot find your ideal customer. You just target the entire market and that's it. And with volume comes profit.
Yeah.
Or there's those that say no, we should probably be very, very narrow because there's the ideal customer. You should get those, and the rest is noise. I guess that is a tightrope to walk. What do you lean to? And maybe because some people I think confuse knowing what your market is. So knowing that you want to target the entire market, but your market is people with kids. It's not everyone. Versus, all right, my market is everyone with kids, but I'm looking for people that have 2 cars and a Labrador and live in a house built in the 60s. And my kids play soccer and piano, and I mean that's too narrow, right? So what's the talk you have with your customers about that? It's like, look, if they come in from this very narrow perspective, do you broaden them, or is it the other way around? Is it typically more broadening than narrow down, or vice versa?
It depends a bit on the product, but I tend to broaden it a bit, I guess, because I did once. I took the CBS.
Like census data of the Netherlands.
Yeah, the website, and because they had a very specific, because I think of it because you mentioned the thing with the 2 cars and the Labrador.
Yeah.
I started looking at areas with a specific income and started just drawing circles around that and running the ad only. But it's way too specific, because someone with the same your client could also still live out now. Well, it's too specific. So sometimes I think it's better to broaden it, and then maybe if you see what works, then narrow it down a bit.
Yeah.
But start out a bit wider with a bigger net, I think.
And do you look at return on investment in that sense? Because I might imagine there's part of the audience that are more profitable because they buy higher margin products, or they have less returns. They maybe just ask less from customer service, therefore they're easier to service. Is that something that you have to discuss as well? Apart from, right, maybe we can get these buyers in, but then, what do we do with their lifetime value or what have you?
Yeah, but I feel like I'm repeating myself, that everything is difficult.
It should be, otherwise what are you doing for your job, right?
Yeah, but because on some products you can, like with a web shop, you can directly see the outcome of an ad spend. But for a B2B campaign, it might land the customer, but maybe the customer is a pain in the ass and left 2 months later.
Yeah.
So you still need to and does your client still remember that pain in the ass client that left 2 months after onboarding came from your campaign? So it's not always easy to pinpoint if
Is that a discussion they should have with you more, you think? Should you be more involved with like customer value overall rather than just I made the click happen, this is the direct revenue?
I think but it happens not enough, I think.
Because I imagine in bigger companies there's although a lot of us, we preach we are customer centric, in practice there's often different teams, right? So we've got there's a team that does acquisitions, there's a team that does customer journey optimization, there's a team that does retention, there's a team that maybe does upsell.
Yeah.
Who all talk to the same customer, but they do different facets.
Yeah.
Therefore, those that have to optimize for acquisition probably are not always fed with the insights from people that do retention. Whereas you'd say, if I know who I have to retain or cannot retain, then maybe I could optimize early on, right?
Yeah.
In a smaller company or medium-sized companies, and in another episode you mentioned that you like working for those at least maybe not like to work with them more, but they're more interesting as a sparring partner.
Yeah.
What do you is the reason that discussion is not happening enough? So the loop back basically to what did it bring in the long term? What the value of the customer?
I think those medium type of companies, the smaller even more. They can still remember, like 3 months ago you brought in this client and he bought this. So great job, because it was a great lead. But that's a really tiny ones.
Is it also because the number of leads is just very small?
That's like specific custom-made products, stuff like that.
If it's high margins, then sure.
High margins, and few leads take a while for them to convert. So those tend to have a real good feeling about, now I have 2 leads that came from the campaign and I'm nurturing them into so those tend to, when I come back with my statistics, they usually come back with, but 3 months ago, Jack clicked on my ad and now he's my best customer, something like that. So then it's easy because you have like one. It's the CEO. He's also...
He does the support and the sales and the production.
He does everything. He knows if the lead was good or not. So I agree with you that when the company gets bigger, I'm talking to marketing and they just report, okay, we had X amount of leads, and it disappears somewhere in the big corporate.
Yeah, or it's sales job now. So we brought in the leads, and now sales can close the deal. Bye-bye. Yeah.
And if it's, So that should be more of a loop back, I think.
Is it a technical issue, or is it more an organizational issue that it doesn't happen?
I'm not sure, but I think it's organizational, but I think it's just, maybe it's just something that goes with big corporations. I'm not sure.
You have to divide, I guess, to some extent. I'd imagine at least, maybe apart from technical difficulties, but if there's online clicks that lead to offline bricks, there's a technical issue to get them connected. Which click led to which deal? That's not always as easy, especially if there's follow-up, or maybe people that visited a shop online and then went to the brick store and then bought something else. That's almost impossible.
Yeah,
but still, I'd imagine for most online operating companies, technically it should be feasible. But if no one is asking you to look into that, then there's also at least the organizational part that no one's made it a priority enough to say, hey, this is the money we're making the first time they buy. What then leads to the second purchase, or maybe having not any returns or what have you, right? So it has to be at least an awareness or prioritization thing, I guess. If there's money to be made up front and it's enough, then maybe it's not a priority yet.
Yeah, and I think priority, because it's in the end it's probably easier just to spend more and get more leads.
Yeah.
Then
it's a numbers game.
Yeah. Then just throw in more at the top and see what sticks. Then to see where to dive in the data and find out exactly why. So I think it's prioritization issue.
And do you then, if we just zoom in on the acquisition stage, do you talk to customers about, hey, this is what we found, so based on what we did for you, these are the sub audiences or these are the traits of people that do click more. So we made an audience catering to people with kids, for instance, but I see that the males are clicking more than the females. So this is to kind of update their view of their customer, or how does that work?
Yeah, usually, yeah. After a while, you just view back on the campaign and see what you had set up, and if I then see a big spike in the male audience, then it's time to tweak the campaign a bit.
Yeah. Yes, there may be biases in play in those advertising platforms. If we're going to go very strict, at the same time, apparently, if you're not getting anything that you're not expecting, then at least it does work to that extent, right? Because if none of your customers saw pieces of audience working for them that they weren't expecting to show up, then at least something in that mix is accurate. Something you're doing is just sticking as it should, right?
Yeah, and I think no one expects it to be 100%.
So what you say the typical expectation is? So what's the margin of error that you
I don't know, but I've never. I think I've never had a client come back to me like, okay, I have a click, but this came from the ad, and he's this person is according to the statistics, he falls in the 20-year category, and we were only advertising from 40 years and older. I don't think I've ever had a client like
complain. Is that because there's a customer, so why complain?
Maybe
looking to give the horse in the mouse, or is it more expectation of accuracy overall they don't have?
Yeah, I think they have less, especially you, because you are a data nerd.
Yeah, probably so. But yes, yeah,
you expect the expect it to be pretty accurate, but I think a lot of clients they come from they used to put banners in bus stops or ads in magazines, and then you just have
volume.
But also you have like an ad in a magazine that's tailored to women. That's all you know. It's okay, it's
Yeah,
and they
in the digital
kind of
age,
take those expectations to online maybe, but I'm not sure. But I'm just trying to
I think that
think
makes sense.
about
There is a sense of false accuracy, maybe the fact that we can measure everything online gives you compared to offline, where indeed, yeah, you can put something in print. Probably, if it's
those magazines, of course, have an idea of what they're, but it's not that if I take out a gossip magazine and I go to the cashier that they say no, you can't buy it because it's
you're not target audience, sir.
you can
You put that back.
put that back. You can't watch those ads
Yeah.
because those ads those advertisers paid for girls, and so it's maybe they have, because they come from that. Well, that's the old.
Well, it's still there.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. This to me is, I think you hit the nail on the head here, because the weird discrepancy is that I also find I can sometimes debate a data point, and this is maybe something for a different episode, but debate a data point where tool A says the average page view time was 3.6 seconds on this page. No, but tool B says it was 3.4. So, what's the truth? So those discussions or spending time doing analytics, that's often, and rightly so. I mean, data starts with having trust in that data and having trust in the people that do the analytics for you. So I should be trustworthy. At the same time, comparing that to here's a couple €1,000 every week we throw at Google and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Paraphrasing a bit here. There's still like a mental thing where if the numbers match up and we get enough customers in the door, yes, targeting is doing its job.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. I'm not trying to be cynical here. I think it's, if you get enough leads in and the business case is positive, why beleaguer the point about, or maybe we're targeting more males than we should. It's working. But it's a weird just paradox between how much attention we spend on drilling down on, is this tool showing us the right number behind the comma? Is your analytics right? Is the market research right, versus throw stuff in the Silicon Valley money machine and stuff comes out, right?
Yeah. But maybe you should just, especially on those the demographic statistics, just look at average. Maybe just see, okay, in the total of the campaign we targeted to men, and then okay, maybe 80% of the clicks were men. So somehow those 20%, like in your research, the percentage is a bit higher, but as long as that's acceptable, I feel clients will be okay with it. Yeah, they expect there to be a bit waste.
Yeah. So maybe turning this to the more like the advice phase. So what do we take away from this today? If a customer comes to you or they're starting out and they wouldn't have a clue, would you then rather say start broader or start more narrow? So if I have this great idea for, let's take out the kitchen utensil with a fork and a spoon at the other. I'm really hoping they're not copyrighted. If I don't know what to target, what would you then? What's your advice?
The wider, broader, the wider, narrow choice. It also depends on the product, because in this case, I would think that it would be possible to go narrow, because a spork is pretty definitive camping stuff. So it's a target audience that you could target a bit more narrow. But when you get to products that just have a bigger audience, like washing machines or something, I think I tend to start a bit broader and then narrow down on the data.
Do you know of customers that use customer interviews like this? So do they talk to their customer and say, hey, all right, you've recently bought a spork with us or another brand of a kitchen utensil. do you go camping? Do you have kids? Do you often bring your salads to work? I mean, is that something they tell you, or something they bring along, or is that something they even do, or is that just
A few.
A few.
But that's maybe my type of clients. Just don't. The small, medium ones just. Yeah, the small ones have those interviews because they talk to the client.
Yeah.
And the big they have a sense because they talk to their support.
Organization, or
so it's
or they
not
just buy market research from.
They don't
very
call
big
it a
company?
survey, but in the end, it's probably the same because they talk to they see the support tickets and what's the issue, or so. They bring the information, but it's not always. It's not very likely to be like an actual survey.
Yeah. So, because this is again. There's a lot of literature about what you should do when you're in marketing, right? It's you start out with market research, and there's all that, and then you go to defining the product, and maybe is there a market for the product, and who is the market for the product, and then where do you find them, and how do you message, and all that. But in practice, which of your customers actually has time and budget to do the entire value chain as it is written in the book, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and they've done, because we only do like a tiny piece of the marketing, so you also have to trust they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not out of business, so somehow they are selling sporks.
Yeah.
So you have to trust their judgment, and based on that experience, I think, because we only do the tiny part.
Right.
Even if like sometimes we only do the campaign and the ads are made by someone else and the page is made by someone else. So you're just a little cog in a wheel.
Yeah. So maybe last question then, to give data nerds like me some comfort. Where do you draw the line in terms of what do you, what's still the right type of inaccuracy, or maybe acceptable amount, versus where would you say, oh, but this is going too far off in terms of audiences, segments we're reaching. Where is that red line where you go in a different direction?
When the client says there's a red line. No.
Fair.
Well,
yeah.
It's sometimes because sometimes the outcome, even though you have a targeting set up and maybe the clicks come from a bit of a different corner, then still, if the leads are okay, you won't hear the client complaining, of course.
Yeah.
But usually when it's intuition, I think. Yeah. Sometimes, after when a campaign runs a bit, you can see like, okay, we targeted on this audience, but I'm reaching a frequency of 8, so we're done here.
Yeah.
And there's the clicks are, then you have to move on, I think.
Yeah. Right. So to summarize, inaccuracy, data nerds like me care a lot. I think overall in practice, there's a level of inaccuracy that we can expect and also can live with, but apparently it gets results. Maybe we could get better results if we feed back some insights about customer journey and lifetime value later on.
Yeah.
The question is, where does that? Why doesn't it happen enough? If you're starting out, maybe depends on the product. Start too narrow, start too broad. Depends on the product. And in this case, where that line is drawn, that's intuition. That's what data cannot tell you. There's a level of intuition there. In terms of inaccuracy, we can expect and live with.
Yes, I think so. But the last one is difficult because you can, even your intuition, if you look at the data, you can think, okay, this campaign is not doing what I expected. But then sometimes that's not an issue because it's still delivering. Yeah. But then still you want to figure out why is this happening or something. But that's probably then it's the data nerd inside of me.
That's a tricky bit, right? Because you can maybe ask some of them, but you cannot ask all of the customers that bought with you, why did you buy this product? And you're not, And maybe that's the moment you get to the first party data as well, right? Right. So we brought in people from a different segment. What are they doing online? Are they looking at a blog that before didn't maybe get this much attention, but apparently does really well for this demographic?
Mm-hmm.
I've helped customers with doing like a segmentation analysis. So we made clusters based on their own data with AI, and then there was a particular cluster that it was cheap to get in because you would use this organic search results to get into the door, but they would only use certain blogs and certain functionalities and never buy anything. So they were reaching organically a very big audience segment that probably was interesting to them, but just nothing going on. And that's the moment you can maybe think of, is this something we try to avoid? Is this somewhere we can monetize more because we're already getting them in the door? So why would we maybe waste advertising money on them when they find us in another way, but then there's nothing commercial going on here in this blog that pushes them towards a sale? So I think that's maybe where I see the combination of the two channels and advertising versus first party data, customer journey insights. But it's a tricky thing. Yeah. And if it works, if bottom line, we're making profits.
Yeah. Well, the blog example, it kind of touches with our own website. We have a pretty extensive FAQ section with a lot of it's more tailored to the web development WordPress corner, and it gets a lot of views, but those people are the ones that we don't sell a lot of extra websites to those people, because those are the people searching for solutions to help themselves. So they are not. They are the. So it's
Yeah, and maybe there's an overall branding effect, and longer term you might see them return to you, but you never really know, right?
If they get stuck, they might still, I found that one solution somewhere on that page once, and then they Google and click your ad, and you think you sold something because of your ad, but it is because of the organic blog like 3 months ago.
Yeah, and good luck building an audience for that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people that read your blog somewhere else, that's tricky business. Yeah, so part of that is just having it right when you can. And part of that, I guess, is just rolling with it sometimes.
Yes.
All right. I think this was very insightful. Thanks. Should you like to know more about these topics, data, MarTech, getting value from data and practice from various types of companies, be sure to check out more of our episodes. And for now, see you next time.